Good evening. This is the March 2nd, 2022 Seminole County Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. My name is Bob Turnage. I'm the acting chairman for tonight's meeting. All stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This board is a 7-member board appointed by the Board of County Commissioners. A quorum has been established tonight to hold tonight's meeting. Public hearing items acted upon by this board are referred to the Board of County Commissioners for further consideration. Board members present tonight are Commissioner Richard German, Commissioner Tim Smith, Commissioner Dan Lopez, Commissioner Walter Grundhoff, and to my right, Carissa Lawhorn. Staff present tonight: Mary Moskowitz, Planning and Development Manager; Rebecca Hammock, Development Services Director; Paul Chipuk, Deputy County Attorney; Bill White, Professional Engineer, Development Review; Doug Robinson, Principal Planner; Annie Silloway, Senior Planner; and Tammy Brushwood, Clerk to the Planning and Zoning Board. Tonight's meeting will go as follows. Staff will introduce the item. The applicant will present the item. Audience members wishing to speak will then be heard. Please make sure you complete a comment card and give it to the clerk. Comment cards are located in the lobby. Audience speakers should restrict their comments to information directly related to the item being heard. Audience speakers will have 3 minutes to speak, or 6 minutes if representing a group like an HOA. When called, speakers should approach a microphone, providing their name and address for the record. The board may ask questions of the speaker. After all speakers have been heard, public comment will be closed. The applicant will be given a chance for rebuttal. Any items shown, such as videos, presentations, pictures, or maps, must be left with the clerk for the public record. Items shown from electronic devices should be emailed to the clerk. A motion will then be made and seconded. Board discussion may occur and conclude with a vote. And I can request a roll call for any split votes. First item on the agenda is approval of proofs of publication. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the notes show that the motion passed. Next, approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to technical review items. Number 1, Beasley Reserve Preliminary Subdivision Plan, presented by Annie Silloway. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Annie Silloway, Senior Planner with Development Services. I will be presenting Beasley Reserve PSP. The applicant is requesting approval of the Beasley Reserve Preliminary Subdivision Plan on 21.64 acres, located approximately 930 feet west of Alafaya Trail. The PSP is proposing 39 lots, single-family residential lots on 21.64 acres with a maximum density of 2.22 dwelling units per net buildable acre with a minimum lot size of 8,400 square feet. I do want to state that there was a mistype in the staff report. It did say 41 lots, and the developer dropped it down to 39. The PSP complies with all the conditions of the Beasley Reserve PD Final Development Plan, Development Order, and Chapter 35 of the Seminole County Land Development Code. All internal roads will be public and utilities will be provided by Seminole County. Public access is via Beasley Road, and there will be 3 lots that will have direct access onto Lake Drive. Final off-site road improvements will be evaluated and determined during final engineering. Staff recommends approval of the Beasley Reserve PSP as requested. That is all I have.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the board? Is the applicant present?
Yes, Chad Moorhead, Madden Moorhead and Stokes, 431 East Horatio Avenue. Just here to answer any questions if you have any.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the board?
I do not.
No. Would any member of the audience wish to speak in favor or in opposition to this request? I know we have one at least. Alan Hoops? Oh, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. So we don't seem to have anyone who wishes to speak on this. Unless any more questions from the board?
In that case,
Okay.
Number 2.
Close public comment.
I'd make a motion to recommend approval of the preliminary subdivision plan for the Beasley Reserve subdivision containing 39 residential lots on 21.64 acres, zone plan development located on the south side of Beasley Road, approximately 930 feet west of Alafaya Trail.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we'll move to public hearing items. Number 2, Salary Cameron Small Scale Future Land Use Map, Amendment and PD Rezone. Ms. Silloway presenting.
Hi, good evening again. Annie Silloway, Development Services. This request is for a small-scale future land use map amendment from suburban estates and low-density residential to low-density residential and a rezone from A1 agriculture, R1 single-family dwelling, and R1A single-family dwelling to PD plan development for 124 lot residential subdivision on approximately 34.07 acres, located on the southwest corner of Celery Avenue and Cameron Avenue. The proposed development will provide a minimum 15% open space, excluding landscape buffers based on the density of 3.64 dwelling units per net buildable acre. The developer is proposing a tree preservation area on the master development plan along the southern portion of the proposed development. A more defined study to show tree preservation will be required at the time of final development plan. The subject property is located within the sub-area 2 of the Sanford Joint Planning Agreement, which allows a maximum of 4 dwelling units per net buildable acre and is consistent with the trend of development in the area. A portion of the Hoops property, parcel 33-1930-300, 011A0000, is not included in the proposed plan development and will remain under the ownership of Alan and Brenda Hoops as their homestead. There is an existing home on the property that will remain. However, when the Hoops property is subdivided for the new subdivision, a right-of-way dedication of 15 feet along Celery Avenue is required as outlined in the conditions of the proposed development order. The subdivision and lot split from the Hoops parcel must occur prior to the preliminary subdivision plan approval. The applicant is proposing a 10-foot wide landscape buffer along the north, west, east, and a portion of the southwest portions of the perimeter, and a 15-foot wide buffer along the southeast portion of the perimeter. Per section 30.1281 of the Seminole County Land Development Code, the applicant would have to be required to provide a .4 opacity with a 15-foot buffer width. The applicant is requesting to deviate from the code, the portion of the buffer along the west of the subject property. Staff is in support of the deviation from section 30.1281 since the adjacent parcel is the Subterra PD. Per the development order of the Subterra PD, the developer will be required to provide a 20-foot buffer on the west. The proposed 10-foot buffer plus the 20-foot buffer would give a substantial buffer between the light industrial site and the future residential development. Utilities for water and sewer will be provided by the City of Sanford. A community meeting for the project was held on December 14th, 2021, and approximately 3 people attended. A copy of the community meeting minutes and sign-in sheet are attached. The site will access from Cameron Avenue, which is classified as a local road. The developer will be required to dedicate 15 feet of right-of-way along Celery Avenue and 10 feet of right-of-way along Cameron Avenue in order to provide a 35-foot half right-of-way. And also, the developer will be required to build a 5-foot sidewalk along Cameron Avenue and Celery Avenue. Staff finds the request PD plan development zoning classification to be consistent with the Land Development Code and compatible with the development in the area. So staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners adopt the proposed ordinance enacting a small-scale future land use map amendment from suburban estates and low-density residential to low-density residential, and adopt the ordinance enacting a rezone from A1 agriculture to R1 single-family dwelling and R1A single-family dwelling to PD plan development on approximately 34.07 acres, and the associated master development plan and development order located on the southwest corner of Celery Avenue and Cameron Avenue. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have questions from the board? Yes.
The endangered wildlife caught my attention. And I know it says that from a preliminary analysis that there may be some. So what are we looking at, gopher turtles or like bald eagles? And
Yes.
okay.
Gopher tortoises and bald eagles or whatever threatened and endangered species are in the area.
Okay. And so what's going to take place, should they find any of those types of animals on the property? Is it a relocation type of thing or having to build around it?
For gopher tortoises, they would have to get a permit through FWC, Florida Wildlife, and they would have to do relocation. Yes.
Any other questions from the board? Okay. Thank you. Is the applicant present?
Chad Moorhead with Madden, Moorhead and Stokes, 431 East Horatio Avenue here representing the developer. We agree with staff's recommendations. I think that Annie misspoke when she said actually a 15-foot dedication along Mr. Hoop's property on Celery. The 15-foot is actually going to be on Cameron, or exactly whatever it takes to do a 35-foot half. There's a 5-foot dedication along Celery. So I just want to make certain of that, and that is in the DO. I believe it was just a misspoke. Also want to put into the record the mailing list and the map that we did. We mailed out 219 mailers for a community meeting that we had 3 people show up to. So wanted to put that into the record. Also, Annie, could we?
Yep.
I know you guys like to see site plans, so we've got our site plan up here. This is what we propose to do, which is a minimum 50 by 110-foot lots, 124 of them. Then I stand for any questions you might have. Also like to rebut if there are any questions that I may be able to get up and answer.
Any questions from the board? Okay.
Thank you.
I know we've had some members of the audience like to speak, I believe in support. Alan Hoops.
Thank you. Alan Hoops, 3991 Celery Avenue. I am in favor of the project, but I do have some questions concerning the sidewalk. I understand that the county has a program for contractors to contribute to a sidewalk fund for other locations. This project will not have the first house built on it until after the Seminole Trail is completed. You're going to have a 1,200-foot sidewalk on Celery Avenue that goes absolutely nowhere. It looks to me like it would be a good opportunity to build a sidewalk where it's needed. That's my comment on it.
Okay. Thank you. And oppose?
Can we ask staff about that?
Sure.
Can we ask a question of staff? Is that a possibility in this project?
Well, like, if I'm understanding them correctly, there is a trail that is proposed to come in on the north side of Celery Avenue. Of course, this project's on the south side of Celery Avenue, and would still be required to do the sidewalk.
When is the sidewalk built?
So it's not optional then for the developer? In this case, it's not optional for the developer to contribute to the, okay.
Yeah, we wouldn't, not in this situation, no.
Okay.
Okay. Emery Green.
So before we start, my name is Emery Green Jr. I'm the Executive Director of the Midway Coalition, so I am representing an organization. There's a short video that I'd like to play first before I make my comments.
All new at 5:30, Boomtown meets Black History Month as a local organization is working to get results for a historically black town in Seminole County.
Leaders say as new construction projects get underway, it's important to figure out how all that growth is impacting the neighborhood of Midway and to make sure the infrastructure is up to snuff too. News 6's Nadine Yanis continues our Boomtown coverage.
We are here in the community of Midway. It is a neighborhood rich in Black history, and it's an unincorporated Seminole County right here. And if you take a look, there are currently 10 developments either underway or already built, putting pressure on this neighborhood. So there's now a coalition of residents not only working to preserve the history, but protect the community's needs here.
This is exactly what gentrification looks like.
It's a bold statement as tractors break ground for yet another development down the street from Seminole County's historic Midway.
We may call it gentrification. Entrepreneurs look at it, they call it development.
Emery Green is the co-founder of the Midway Coalition.
Our history is unlike any other.
Midway is where migrant workers lived and worked in the 1900s. Picking celery is seen here in historical images from the state archives.
The city of Sanford's first African-American city commissioner was born on that farm.
But some of those same fields are now foundations for new homes, and he sees a difference.
Every home in historic Midway Canaan City is on septic tanks. These homes have sewer.
Between New Midway and historic Midway.
They see what's happening on their side of the fence. It doesn't match what's happening on the other side of the fence.
Which is why the coalition is getting results and taking advantage of the growth to get better infrastructure. News 6 was here in Midway as streets flooded just in December, residents' septic tanks overflowing with winter rain.
When the streets are flooding and you have raw mess coming out of your clean-out cap.
But the Seminole County Commission has acknowledged the growth around Midway and has come with one solution.
The growth around Midway has sort of encircled it with neighborhoods that have better infrastructure than Midway does, and we're doing our part to rectify that. But since I've been in office, we have committed $18 million for stormwater.
But Green wants to know what the impacts of all of this new development is having on Midway, from sewers to schools, showing us a joint planning agreement from 2015 between the county and the city of Sanford that says a study may be done.
Areas that may be candidates for a special area study include, what's the first one on that list? Midway.
7 years later, Green says it's never happened.
We know what the impacts are. That study needs to be done, which we can't go back and correct what's already done. You can't put this back in the box.
Commissioner Herr saying a water basin study was done to get the funds to fix the flooding issues, but when it comes to a study specifically at the impacts of growth.
Absolutely, I'd be willing to do a study as long as I can tag that to specific actions and outcomes as a result of the study.
The commissioners, they have stepped up to the plate. We just want equitable investment and opportunities to grow ourselves. It's up to us to ensure that that story is told the right way.
In Seminole County, Nadine Yanis, Getting Results, News 6.
So you can learn more about Midway and other important Black history rooted in Central Florida. Just head to clickorlando.com/Black History Month and be sure to check back daily as news stories are posted.
So thank you for that moment to watch that video. It's pretty self-explanatory. Our position is that we would like for this body to suspend all further development along the Celery Avenue corridor until a study that appropriately addressed any mitigation for impacts on historic Midway Canaan City. That document that I just provided you was signed in 2015. That has been presented to every county commissioner and every city commissioner. We still have not received a comprehensive study for the impacts that are currently underway for our historic community. You saw the flooding. That flooding never happened like that before those developments were in place. One of the subdivisions along the Celery Avenue corridor, we've recorded video where the outflow of their retention pond had water coming out of it, not into it, but out of it into the retention pond from the exterior ditch in that channel that takes the water over to the waterway. So this body really has a lot of power when it comes to recommendations on the impacts of the citizens throughout Seminole County, and it is our utmost concern that we take the appropriate steps to ensure that historic Midway Canaan City is preserved, number one. And number two, the new residents that are moving into that corridor have just as much right for a safe and controlled environment that isn't as impacted as our community is. So I'll come back for further comment once, if needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Jesse Jackman?
Yes, I'm Jessie Jackman, 895 Powhatan Drive, Sanford, Florida, 32771. I also live in the area. This additional 124 houses has come after so much growth that you saw in that video. There's too much growth too fast, and we don't know what the impact of it is. Last time I was here, when we were talking about another development, a question was asked about a traffic study on Celery. One had not been done. If you have driven on Celery Avenue during rush hour, you know how horrible it is. I like to go for a walk. I can't. It's too dangerous in our area without the sidewalks and so much traffic. We have no infrastructure in that area. We don't even have a grocery store, but we're going to keep putting more and more houses there. This is Seminole County is supposed to be Florida's natural choice. There's not going to be a single blade of grass. It's going to be all concrete down Celery. I think you need to reconsider it. The impact of this continued growth without checking it, the impact to the wildlife, to the sandhill cranes that I see on that property every day, to the people in the surrounding neighborhoods. I think you need to study that further before you allow this continued unchecked growth. Please reconsider it. The impact on the surrounding areas and the traffic are horrendous, and I see it every day. Please reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you. Before the applicant comes back, would staff like to talk about the flooding issues? Do you have any comment on?
Well, there was a study done, the Midway study, that got completed and provided some alternatives for improvements. And then I believe what Commissioner Herr had stated in the video was that they had authorized $18 million for those improvements. So I believe there's 3 alternative improvements that are planned and in process right now as part of that, which is that whole general Midway area.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have a timeline on that?
I would have to get back with you on the timeline. I don't, I believe they're already out as far as getting a consultant to do that design work. So I think that's already been done, but I'd have to get back with you and just see what that full timeline would be.
Thank you.
The money's allocated, though. Is that what you said?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak either for or against this development? Okay, I close public comment. Would the applicant like to speak?
Yes, Chad Moorhead again with Madden, Moorhead and Stokes. As far as the drainage in the area goes, we're aware of the issues kind of to the south and the west. This particular property flows to the north. We actually plan on helping this particular area of Celery by piping out fall to the north. Right now it goes across private property through a ditch that hasn't been maintained for many years. So we've looked at that. We're aware of Mr. Green's issues and the stuff that's going on in Midway with the flooding. But again, this property flows to the north and really doesn't affect Midway. I can't really speak on the utility issues, septic tanks and stuff of that nature. Again, we'll be doing a lift station and flowing to the city of Sanford's utility service area. As far as whether this property is developed for residential or not, the western parcels are already low-density residential, they're already zoned residential. We're simply taking the parcels on the east and making it one congruent project along with kind of the things that have already gone in the area just south of us, just east of us. Not too long ago, I was in here on another community on the east side of Cameron. Our entrance will line up with that community. It's basically the same development program. So here, if you guys have any more questions, if you've heard something that you may have questions on, I can try to answer. I will.
Anyone on the board have questions or discussion? Anyone like to make a motion?
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion for or against?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I'll recommend the Board of County Commissioners adopt the proposed ordinance enacting a small-scale future land use map amendment from suburban estates and low-density residential to low-density residential, and adopt the ordinance enacting a rezone from A1, R1, and R1A to PD plan development for approximately 34.07 acres, and approve the associated development master plan and development order located on the southwest corner of Celery and Cameron Avenue.
Do we have a-
Second. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Number 3, Land Development Code Amendment, net buildable acreage, presented by Mary Moskowitz.
Good evening. For the record, Mary Moskowitz, Planning and Development Services. This item is to consider an ordinance amending Chapter 2 Definitions and Chapter 30, Part 70 Supplemental District Regulations of the Seminole County Land Development Code, and to amend the definition of net buildable acreage to be consistent with the Seminole County Comprehensive Plan and deleting Section 30.1359. On November 9th, 2021, the BCC voted to transmit the text amendment to the introduction element of the Seminole County Code Comprehensive Plan with the following definition of net buildable acreage. Within the area described as the urban core, as shown here on the map in the middle, defines the lands bounded by I-4 on the west and within a half-mile boundary of US 1792 on the east, and all the land within a half-mile of State Road 436, and any parcel crossed by this boundary is considered wholly within the urban core. The total number of acres within the boundary of the development, excluding natural lakes, wetlands, or flood-prone areas. Within all other areas of Seminole County, the total number of acres within the boundary of development, excluding areas devoted to roadway right-of-ways, transmission power line easements, natural lakes, wetlands, or flood-prone areas. In addition, language was added to allow for projects with unexpired final development orders, preliminary subdivision plan approval, unexpired development applications, or executed contracts to purchase property submitted prior to the adoption date of this ordinance, between the time of the current definition was adopted and the new definition is adopted, to utilize the current definition. The request before you tonight is to amend the Land Development Code so that the definitions within the LDC can be consistent with the comprehensive plan. In addition, staff is also recommending the deletion of Section 30.1359 out of Chapter 30, as this is an outdated and unused methodology for calculating net residential density. The Board of County Commissioners' adoption hearing for the Comprehensive Plan Amendment and the LDC Amendment is tentatively scheduled for April 19th, 2022. As the local planning agency, the Planning and Zoning Commission is responsible for making findings that amendments to the Land Development Code are consistent with the comprehensive plan. Therefore, staff recommends the Planning and Zoning Commission make a finding of consistency with the comprehensive plan and make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners to adopt the ordinance amending Chapter 2, Definitions, and Chapter 30, Part 70, Supplemental Regulations of the Seminole County Land Development Code. This concludes my presentation, and I am here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Do we have questions from the board?
I have one.
Commissioner?
I just want to understand, Paul, you may have to answer this. On number 3, the recommended motions, how could we find consistency and then move to deny? I mean,
Well, there's consistency with the comprehensive plan and the established policies in the comprehensive plan. And then If for policy reasons you believe that you do not want to recommend approval of the actual text amendment, or not the text amendment, but the wording in the Land Development Code, that's...
I got it. So if we don't like the way it's written, that gives you an opportunity.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
And if I must just add one thing to Mary's comments, not included in the staff report because it doesn't come before you, but there is also an attendant vested rights policy that's been in the process of being drafted at the board's direction from the comprehensive plan amendments that would allow an additional 12 months for contracts that are in the works to get their final development permits under the existing definition. So there is an ease-in period, so to speak, for projects that are under contract and seek out a vested rights determination. So I just wanted to make the board aware of that.
Thank you. Now, usually we'll go to applicant. I assume you are the applicant.
Yes.
You were speaking. We have I have a couple members of the audience that wish to speak in support. Richard Crepon. I apologize if I mispronounced your name.
Mr. Chairman and fellow members, my name is Richard Creedon. I live at 1172 Apache Drive, Geneva, Florida. I am the Vice President of the Geneva Citizens Association. Since I live in Geneva, why am I here? Because I care about the entirety of Seminole County and not just the eastern rural area. The county is, in my mind, built on a sturdy three-legged stool. The eastern rural area, the urban corridor, and lastly, the remaining unincorporated areas of the county which this item affects, many of which are in environmentally sensitive areas, close to the Wekiva River, etc. We are in complete agreement that the rural area be preserved at low density and the urban corridor at the highest possible density. The remaining unincorporated areas deserve a lower density to enhance their quality of life. We applaud staff for suggesting this change. It is a step in the right direction, although we also would like retention ponds to be deleted from net buildable acreage. However, that will be for another day and time. In the meantime, we say to staff, thank you.
Thank you. Joe Humphreys.
Joe Humphreys, 883 Cardinal Point Cove, Sanford, Florida. I'm the vice president of my HOA, and I don't know that I need 6 minutes, but I'd like to have the extended time if at all possible, because these are issues that are of great concern. I live on the other side. We live in the Warpa, and I don't need to explain, I would hope, to any of you the history of the Warpa. I was in Tallahassee when they were debating this parkway. I have friends that have served in Tallahassee for many years, and going back to Barb Martinez, talking about how critical it was to protect this area. As with George, I would like to support staff in this. It's a step in the right direction, but as a former development company employee, a realtor, a real estate investor, I can tell you for a fact that trying to find what's sustainable is what moved me here. I came here from Sanibel, Captiva, Marco Island areas, and I can tell you, I know what it's like to try to build in very environmentally sensitive areas. So all of my neighbors, my friends, we're dealing with issues. I'm working with Lennar Homes, for example, on a project right as we speak, trying to mitigate some issues that came before this board in 2013. So again, this is a step in the right direction, kind of going back to the other comments that you've heard this evening. If we don't have as Andrea Herr would say, a 30,000-foot view of what we're doing, then we have a problem. If we continue to make decisions on a piecemeal basis without a big-scale plan of where do we want, how do we want to grow, how did we grow, then we're just going to end up being a piecemeal community. So I ask you to support staff in this. They've been working with a lot of us. We think we're making some steps in the right direction. We're trying to find, I think, as everybody on this board would say, we want a sustainable community. We want to protect our investment in this community. We want to see it continue to grow. And I think we're making steps in that direction. This is certainly a prime example of that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other members of the audience wish to speak for or against this amendment? Okay, Ms. Moskowitz, would you? Well, there's not much to rebut, but you're welcome to.
I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? Do we have a motion?
Let me just say for the record that I intend to vote no because I objected to this language back when they did the comprehensive plan, but the horse is out of the barn, so this doesn't really make a lot of difference at this point. So,
okay,
I'm not making a motion, no.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion. I value consistency, so I'll make a motion to make a finding of consistency with the comprehensive plan and make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners to adopt the ordinance amending Chapter 2, definitions in Chapter 30, Part 70, supplemental district regulations of the Seminole County Land Development Code to amend the definition net buildable acreage.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay. Record show we had one opposed. All right, well, that closes the public hearing part of our meeting. Mary, do you have anything else for the board?
I just want to let you all know that we are working on those amendments to the Land Development Code. We have what we call a friendly draft, so it's a somewhat easy-to-read version of the changes to the Land Development Code. We will be sending that out to our stakeholders in about a week. That includes you all on the board, and at the April meeting, if you have an opportunity to review it, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have then. I will say it is about right now, it's about 140 pages. I anticipate that it will probably be a little bit larger than that. I will be emailing the document. If you would like a printed copy, please let me or Tammy know that, and we'll be happy to print one for you as well.
Mary, the April is just for discussion. It's
Just
not-
for discussion. So it would be a discussion item, and then it's going to the Board of County Commissioners for a work session in April as well. So it would be a while before you guys see it for the adoption.
Thank you. Anyone on the board have anything to discuss? The last agenda item is the photograph, but I'd like to go ahead and adjourn, and then we can, wherever you want us for the photograph.
Typically, we do it right in the front if you guys want
Okay.
to come on down.
All right. Meeting is adjourned.